Oh, so I'm so sorry. I completely forgot there was another page before I finished last Friday's reading session. So I'm going to start that first before we move on to our next chapter, which is Bruce Bogtrotter and the Cake. Well thrown, sir, somebody shouted from across the playground. And Matilda, who was mesmerised by the whole crazy affair, saw Amanda Thripp descending in a long, graceful parabola onto the playing field beyond. She landed on the grass and bounced 3 times, and finally came to a rest. Then, amazingly, she sat up. She looked a trifle dazed, and who could blame her? But after a minute or so, she was on her feet again, and tottering back towards the playground. The Trunchbull stood in the playground, dusting off her hands. "Not bad," she said, "considering I'm not in strict training. Not bad at all." Then she strode away. "She's mad," Hortensia said. "But don't the parents complain?" Matilda asked. "Would yours?" Hortensia asked. "I know mine wouldn't. She treats the mothers and fathers just the same as the children, and they're all scared to death of her. I'll be seeing you sometime, you two." And with that she sauntered away. Bruce Bogtrotter and the Cake. "How can she get away with it?" Lavender said to Matilda. "Surely the children go home and tell their mothers and fathers. I know my father would raise a terrific stink if I told him the headmistress had grabbed me by the hair and slung me over the playground fence." "No, he wouldn't," Matilda said, "and I'll tell you why. He simply wouldn't believe you." "Of course he would." "He would not," Matilda said, "and the reason is obvious. Your story would sound too ridiculous to be believed. That's the Trunchbull's greatest secret." "What is?" Lavender asked. Matilda said, "Never do anything by halves if you want to get away with it. Be outrageous. Go the whole hog. Make sure everything you do is so completely crazy it's unbelievable. No parent is going to believe this pigtail story, not in a million years. Mine wouldn't. They'd call me a liar." "In that case," Lavender said, "Amanda's mother isn't going to cut her pigtails off." "No, she isn't," Matilda said. "Amanda will do it herself. You see if she doesn't." "Do you think she's mad?" Matilda asked. "Who?" Oh gosh, class 2, sorry, I've lost my page. I just need to turn this page right here, but it's all stuck together. The Trunchbull. "No, I don't think she's mad," Matilda said, "but she's very dangerous. Being in this school is like being in a cage with a cobra. You have to be very fast on your feet." They got another example of how dangerous the headmistress could be on the very next day. During lunch, an announcement was made that the whole school should go into the assembly hall and be seated as soon as the meal was over. When the 250 or so boys and girls were seated down in the assembly hall, the Trunchbull marched onto the platform. None of the other teachers came in with her. She was carrying a riding crop in her right hand. She stood up there on centre stage in her green breeches with her legs apart, with her riding crop in her hand, glaring at the sea of upturned faces before her. "What's going to happen?" Lavender whispered. "I don't know," Matilda whispered back. The whole school waited for what was coming next. "Bruce Bogtrotter!" the Trunchbull barked suddenly. "Where is Bruce Bogtrotter?" A hand shot up amongst the seated children. "Come up here," the Trunchbull shouted, "and look smart about it." An 11-year-old boy, who was decidedly large and round, stood up and waddled briskly forward. He climbed off onto the platform. "Stand over there," the Trunchbull ordered, pointing. The boy stood to one side. He looked nervous. He knew very well he wasn't up there to be presented with a prize. He was watching the headmistress with an exceedingly wary eye, and he kept edging farther and farther away from her, with little shuffles of his feet, rather like a rat might edge away from a terrier that's watching it from across the room. His plump, flabby face had turned grey with fearful apprehension. His stockings hung about his ankles. "This clot," boomed the headmistress, pointing the riding crop at him like a rapier. "This blackhead, this foul carbuncle, this poisonous pustule that you see before you is none other than a disgusting criminal, a denizen of the underworld, a member of the mafia." "Who? Me?" Bogtrotter said, looking genuinely puzzled. "A thief," the Trunchbull screamed, "a crook, a pirate, a brigand, a rustler." "Steady on," the boy said. "I mean, dash it all, headmistress. Do you deny it, you miserable little gumboil? Do you plead not guilty?" "I don't really know what you're talking about," the boy said, more puzzled than ever. "I'll tell you what I'm talking about, you Sorry, class 2. You suppurating little blister. I didn't know what that word said there. The Trunchbull shouted. Yesterday morning, during break, you sneaked like a serpent into the kitchen and stole a slice of my private chocolate cake from my tea tray. That tray had been prepared for me, personally, by the cook. It was my morning snack. And as for the cake, it was my own private stock. That was not boy's cake. You don't think for 1 minute I'm going to eat the... for 1 minute. I'm going to eat the filth I give to you. That cake was made from real butter and real cream. And he, that robber bandit, that safecracker, that highwayman standing over there with his socks around his ankles, stole it and ate it. I never did, the boy exclaimed, turning from grey to white. Don't lie to me, bog trotter, barked the Trunchbull.